final decision-making tool which will help you in your career and which we present in this boot camp is called the decision chain. Decisions, as we all know, can be very important and difficult to make, so we often need a tool to help us. And Professor Ron Howard of Stanford University has a good saying to help you remember this point. A good decision never turns into a bad decision, and a bad decision never turns into a good decision. Now, we must remember that managers are paid to make decisions, and they're also judged on their success rate. And almost all of those decisions could be made better, according to the research on this subject. So we need to learn how to make better decisions. And learning to apply effective decision-making practices can increase the number of good business decisions you will make. But unfortunately, according to the research at Stanford University and other institutions, only 2% of managers have been found to regularly apply best practices and tools when making important decisions. So we'll use the decision chain as an example of an effective tool that can help you make better decisions. And the decision chain can help improve your decision quality. But it's very important to remember that each link in the chain is interconnected with all the other links. In other words, the decision chain process is not a linear process because each decision made as you go through the chain has an impact on previous and future decisions you make during the process. Please remember that important point. Now let's say a few words about each of the 6 links in the chain. The first link in the decision chain is called correct framework. And what this means is that when we're working on the right decision, we are clear about the purpose, we have defined the scope or boundaries of that decision, and we're aware of our point of view, our rationality that we're bringing to the decision. And finally, we are solving the decision in the right way and with the involvement of others. The second link in the chain is called correct alternatives. And correct alternatives make sure that we have considered creative and doable alternatives, and those alternatives should be significantly different from each other. And also, if they're not doable, we can't make them happen. So remember that, correct and doable. The third link in the chain is called right information. And right information helps us to be confident in the decisions we'll make. And it's important to have the right information. But for that to happen, the information we use must be forward-looking and involve some uncertainty. And because of these factors of forward-looking and uncertainty, we must use relevant and trusted information. And we must make sure the right judgments about that information are made. Is that good information? How good is that information? What is the source of that information, etc.? The fourth link in the chain is called clear goals. And clear goals help us to focus on value creation when we're choosing our alternatives. But in order to do that, we must define the value metrics we're using. Remember our discussion about KPIs, along with their benefits and their weaknesses, so we really understand those metrics. The fifth link in the chain is called proper reasoning. Proper reasoning helps us to determine which alternatives give us the most of what we want. But the challenge at this stage is to make sure that we're using the correct decision logic and to take into account any uncertainties which might exist. But remember, at this stage it's also critical to break down the complexity of the problem into smaller pieces, because only by doing that can we eventually arrive at a clear choice or choices. Those first 5 links in the decision chain help you to create clarity on what is necessary for you to know in order to make a decision. In other words, what are your intentions? But you must remember that intention is not the same as action. And this leads us to the 6th link. And the 6th link, and final link, is called commitment to action. And commitment, as you know, is most important in any decision-making process after you've decided. Commitment to action is important to remember also because decisions are not really made until resources have been allocated to deal with the issues that have been identified. So being committed to action requires people to make a shift from thinking to doing. And when making this shift, any conflicts between people should be resolved then and there. And even more importantly, the involvement of people who will actually implement the decisions and make them happen must be established at that point. The 6 links in the decision chain will give you, as a manager, a more systematic way to consider all the decision requirements needed in order to make quality decisions. And quality decisions are most important. And taking the time to apply the 3 tools we presented in this bootcamp session, the time management grid, the 5 whys, and the decision chain, will certainly help you as a manager to improve your decision quality in the future. But please remember, and this is very important, practice makes you better, but only perfect practice makes you perfect.